Hey everybody, Kneecap here. I'll do a video reviewing the developer Q&A that was broadcast live on Twitch today. Kind of going to go over some of the highlights, the things that really interest me the most, kind of touch on them, what they mean to me, what they might mean to the community, and just my overall thoughts on it. First of all, I really enjoyed watching it. It wasn't too long, which I was afraid maybe it would drone on. I actually had some things to do today, and I was really happy that they gave a lot of information and not taking too long. So let me shorten that even more for you with some of the major highlights. I'm going to start with the biggest highlight probably, and that was the game developer saying that we could expect 7.1 as early as October 25th. So that's only a couple more weeks, guys. That was pretty exciting. I was thinking November at the earliest. A lot of people were thinking December, January, but yeah. So October 25th, they said the patch is pretty much ready to go as it is right now already. So I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm ready to go into Karazhan. He did specify that the Trials of Valor raid will not be implemented right away. That might come a week later, 2 weeks later, something like that. But still, I'm really looking forward to going to that Karazhan new instance there, new dungeon, and I think that'll be really fun. That was my biggest takeaway. He kind of waited to reveal that towards the end, which makes sense. But that was the biggest thing for me, so I wanted to start with that first. Next thing that was really telling for me, I wanted to hit on was he actually admitted to a couple things that even they feel like they failed at Blizzard, and one thing that he hit it on was the question was asked, and there's been a lot of videos on YouTube, was the Mythic Emerald Nightmare too easy? The answer is no. It's is it too easy for the very, very top guilds that basically play WoW for a living and spend every waking moment getting gear? Then yes. But when your item level is already so high that the gear you're getting from the Mythic raid, unless it forges up, isn't even good for you, then it's not too easy. You're just over geared and you're not doing the content as, intended. But that being said, he said he was pretty happy with it, except for Xavius. He did want Xavius to be a little bit harder. He specifically said he did not want it to be as hard as like Archimond, um, or can't remember the other end boss he named, but he didn't want it to be a 300 wipe. Was his figure 300 wipe last boss, but he did want it to be a little bit harder than what it was. Maybe not a 1 day clear, but maybe a 2 or 3 day clear is kind of what they're going for. So he did admit to a failure on Xavius. I thought that was telling because it's hard to admit failures for a big company. And another failure he let me look at my notes here hinted on was eye level not mattering as much. They really wanted your eye level to matter, and it doesn't, and that's a problem. And he admitted to it. Eye level doesn't matter as much as your stats. I play a holy paladin. Is most of the time, if you watch any of my videos, you'll see that. And crit matters for me more than almost anything. If my gear doesn't have crit on it, I probably won't wear it. If it's a 20, 30 item level upgrade, maybe I will. And it's just because I feel bad not doing it really. But in the end, the crit might still be better for me, especially if it's two stats that I don't want, like haste or more mastery, which I already have too much of as it is. Um, and he admitted to it. Eye level doesn't matter, so they're going to try to figure out a way maybe to make that matter more, but without completely messing you up. If you've been, stacking crit, for example, he doesn't want to make crit not matter because you might have turned down an upgrade of gear because it didn't have crit on it. So now if all of a sudden intellect matters more or strength matters more, and you turn down a piece of gear that would have been a huge upgrade for you if it mattered more, they really don't want to do that. So they're trying to balance that out. So they're going to try to make your current stats still matter that you stacked, but also make the primary stats matter as well. So let's see how they do on that. But again, at least they're looking into it. Another thing to look at here. Okay, so he touched on a lot about best and worst. He mentioned that a lot. There's always going to be a best talent, a worst talent, a best piece of gear, worst piece of gear, best spec, worst spec. Um, their goal is to make them as close as possible, and this is something that I try to explain and how I live my life really a little bit more nuanced way. Uh, yes, so one specifically they were talking about was Hunter Barrage. Um, Everyone chooses Barrage, but it has its downside where it pulls everything. So they're like, well, can you make Barrage better? And he's like, well, instead of making Barrage better, if people aren't comfortable using it in a certain instance, what we want to do is we want to make the other talents catch up to Barrage. And that's exactly how I feel it should be. All the talents, the reason why they got rid of the old talent system, which I really loved, was because it forced you to build a certain way no matter what. So the whole idea with this talent system is that each row should be equal playing field with the other talents on that row. And right now it's not in a lot of cases. Some cases it is. And they wanted it to be situational as well. So maybe for this boss you want to do this talent. For this instance you want to do this talent. And right now there's just such a big gap between certain ones that you can only choose one basically. So they want to make that closer. But he wanted to point out that there always is going to be a best and worst still. No matter how much you tweak it, one's going to be slightly better than the other one. And then he also pointed out how if one thing's slightly better than the others, all the top players are going to be playing that way. And that's going to inflate the numbers even more because you're going to have all the really good players playing a certain spec, and it's going to make it look even better than what it already is. So he touched on best and worst a lot, touched on best and worst on legendaries. There's a best legendary, there's a worst legendary, but they're all still legendaries, and that's the point you should take out of it. It's still cool to have. They still can be situational, even if it's not the one you really wanted. Speaking of legendaries, which I still do not have, and short of like mythic, full clear mythic raiding guilds, I probably play nearly as much as anybody else other than that, and I still do not have a legendary. That being said, neither did either of the two people on the Q&A here. So basically, news to everyone who doesn't have a legendary like myself or like them is if you don't have a legendary, you're just unlucky. Because at this point, if you play a lot, you probably should have one by now. Obviously, there's people that have 2, 3, 4. I think I've seen someone that had 5 already, which is absolutely ridiculous. 1, you should technically have to play a ton for that to happen, and 2, you're just incredibly lucky. I believe they mentioned a streamer who has 4 legendaries, and he basically just said that he's in the 0.01 top percent because hardly anybody has 4 legendaries. So it's just a luck factor. I mean, if you get 2 legendaries in a day, maybe you should go buy a lottery ticket. It's just bad luck. That's all it is. Oh shoot. Another thing that I took away was that he believed that everything was scaled pretty well. Like they're pretty much happy with everything in Legion and that everything's scaled well. The only things that aren't working out perfectly is for those high-end mythic guilds, and it's just hard. It's hard to make them content just for them because essentially that's what you're doing. They're the ones that are getting 5 tunes to 110 so they can have all the alts all geared so they can bring in whatever class they need and get everything done. They're the ones using potions on every pull, even if it's a progression pull that there's 0% chance they're going to kill it on. They're the ones, farming the mythics, and then as soon as Mythic Plus come out, farming those. I mean, it's hard to make content just for them because that's essentially what you'd be doing. You don't have to make a separate game just for them. So other than that, they're happy with it. I'm happy with it. I have to agree with them on that. My last big thing actually, that was a personal takeaway, is me being in more of a casual guild. We do flask up. We're in heroic. We're about halfway through, I guess, a little over halfway through 4-7. We flask up, obviously. We food buff. We've been trying to use potions, but flask, potions, all that stuff is so expensive right now, and we can't really ask other casual players to be farming all that or have the gold to buy all that. And something that I've been telling them is with this new Sargeras vendor coming out, I think everything will drop in price. I have a ton of Blood of Sargeras. A lot of people do. And we should be flooding the auction house with new materials. So while I'm very happy that you guys made a bunch of gold right before 7.1, I am looking forward to the prices hopefully dropping as the market becomes flooded. That should be a good change for that. And that's something that the developer touched on as well. Instead of changing how much mats you need for something, their true belief that the Blood Sargeras will indeed and in fact cut down the price a lot. So I'm hoping so. That's my belief as well. Yeah, but other than that, those are my major takeaways. That was probably about half the questions. So a lot of the questions are really good questions from the community. Uh, Other than that, just thumbs up and sub, and check back again for more WoW content, guys.